Start. So good morning to everyone, and particularly good morning to Sheila and Julie. Sheila, of course, is Chief Executive of the Chichester College Group, and Julie, you can see, well, we can see her right shoulder. No, she's just leant over. Julie, of course, is also from the Chichester College Group. She's managing director. It's managing director commercial. I always get this wrong.
You can have it in brackets or without.
It's just managing director will do, will it? All right, we'll stick with that then. Okay, so we're going to learn all things about obviously FE and skills and the challenges we're facing as an economy, the opportunities as some employers shed staff, other employers build up staff, the need to ensure that our young people are well placed for the opportunities that lie ahead. We know that employment, younger people are going to be particularly hard hit by the current crisis. Hopefully they will also be well placed with the support that FE colleges and others provide to sort of bounce back quickly. So I should have started off by introducing myself, though I must admit I do know most of you, but I'm Jeff Alexander. I'm Chief Executive of Gatwick Diamond Business, and we have other members of the team as well. People, as I'm speaking, actually, I knew I started too soon. As I'm speaking, further people are joining us, but I won't repeat what I've just said. So it looks, I've lost sight of Sheila. There she is. It looks, Sheila, as though you're in the hot seat to kick us off this morning. And I think you're going to be sharing your screen with us, aren't you? But over to you.
Thank you for the introduction, Jeff. And as I say, I'm going to switch between myself and Julie. So this is what we're going to be talking about. And first of all, just a quick introduction to Chichester College Group. So we're the largest college group in Sussex. We've got about 25,000 students. And we did have 2,200 apprentices, and we'll come on to that. We are starting to build up our apprentice numbers, which is great from a business perspective, but it has caused us a challenge as we went into lockdown. And just to say, we opened a new college in September at Hayward Heath, which is currently for 16 to 18-year-olds, but we hope to expand it to apprenticeships in due course. So we do have a proven track record as Chichester College Group. We were the #1 general further education college for apprentices in Hampshire and Sussex. And we are very proud of that. We're good at ensuring that our apprentices succeed and that they go through and complete all bits of parts of their qualification. So we were also rated outstanding by Ofsted. Now, those of you who don't come from an education background may not know the importance of this, but every school and college in the country has an Ofsted inspection on a regular basis. We were due because we have merged, and we were inspected in March, just before we went into lockdown. There's only one other college group in the whole country which got outstanding across all the judgment areas under the new framework. And there are only 2 other colleges in the southeast, general further education colleges currently, that are outstanding by Ofsted. So it was a great achievement. And as you can see, I put up a couple of quotes. Learners and apprentices enjoy greatly their time at college. They're ambitious to achieve, and employers value greatly the positive impact apprenticeships, new skills and knowledge have on their workplace. So this is just a slide of some of the employers that we work with. So you've got NHS, South East Coast Ambulance Service there, which we do a lot of training based in Crawley. We've got Taylor Wimpey, the RSPCA, Goodwood. Rolls-Royce is a big company to work with from Chichester College, West Sussex County Council across the group, Harwood's, Payne Manwaring, Hospitality, Boeing. So we've got some strong employer connections right the way across the group, and particularly in the Gatwick Diamond, although as a result of COVID, some of those employer relationships are possibly changing, but hopefully will become stronger as we move forward. So the programs that we offer, which we work together with businesses to deliver, this just gives you a picture of the academic routes that you can take. Obviously, for a lot of our students, they leave school and come to us, and then they have the choice of A-levels if they've got 5 GCSEs at grade 4 to 9 under the new grading system, but A-levels may not be the right course for them. They may want to do an applied general, which most people know as BTECs. They may also want to do an apprenticeship. They may want to do technical and professional qualifications, which would be anything from construction to hair and beauty to at Brinsbury, agriculture, arboriculture, animal care, equine, those sorts of courses. They may, however, also now want to do a T-level. So T-levels were introduced by the government this September. We have about 165 students taking them at either level 2 or level 3. And eventually, I think T-levels will replace most of the applied generals. And we've got a slide on this in a minute or two. Whatever happens to people as they come through college, they have a goal in mind, and the goal could be going to university, it could be studying their higher education at college, it could be doing a degree, apprenticeship, or it could be going straight into work. And we are very keen to encourage students to have a goal, and then we work very hard with them to get them to the next stage. So moving on to apprenticeships. What is an apprenticeship? Well, hopefully a lot of you know this, but it is a real job. So you are employed by the employer. We have about 30 apprenticeships within the college group, and I'm sure we'll have more in due course. So the salary depends on the employment that they are in, and it can be set. It will be set by the employer, but there are some minimum amounts that an apprentice can receive. They get a formal qualification as a result of an apprenticeship. They can last anywhere between 1 year and 4 years. Some of the electrical and professional qualifications are quite long. And they come at different levels. So Chichester College Group tends to deliver levels 2 and 3, but it does deliver level 4, 5 and 6 in some subjects. There's no cost to the apprentice. So as the apprentice is concerned, then they have a job and they get paid for the job. And it's a fantastic way to work yourself through an organisation. I think of Rolls-Royce, for example. The managing director of Rolls-Royce Motor Cars started life as an apprentice. And there are lots of opportunities. We've got people here who started as apprenticeships and are now one of the managers within the group. So that just gives you a flavour on apprenticeships, and this very busy slide gives you all the apprentices that we offer, and we'll send this out to you so that you can have a look at it. But as you can see, there are a myriad of qualifications that you can do, from equine groom through to accountant training, financial accountant, to a healthcare support worker, to an early years practitioner, to a motor cycle technician, and a whole mixture in between. So it's a very wide-ranging set of qualifications, and lots for a young person to choose. As far as the incentive for employers is concerned, under the new arrangements, the employer receives £2,000 for an apprenticeship aged 16 to 24 and £1,500 for an apprenticeship aged 25 and over. And in addition, the government has introduced an additional £1,000 incentive to take on apprentices from the 1st of August this year to the 31st of January next year, as long as the apprentice is aged 16 to 18-year-olds or is under 25 and has an education healthcare plan or has been in the care of the local authority. So people with an education healthcare plan usually are students with some sort of learning difficulty, challenge or disability. So there are lots of incentives for employers to get involved in taking on an apprentice. So just moving on to T-levels. So we have this new qualification. The structure of it is that the T-level comes with a technical qualification, which includes the core theory, concepts and skills for an industry area, specialist skills, an industry placement for an employer, and the industry placement is substantial, at least 45 days, and a minimum standard of maths and English if the student hasn't already achieved them. So it's a big qualification, but it's a qualification that hopefully provides employers with the knowledge that they need to move into employment. And in fact, the standards are being produced working with employers to ensure that it does deliver the skills that the employers need. Every T-level includes an industry placement, and as I say, it's about 45 days, but it can last longer, and we need your help. So if your employer who thinks, and I'll show you the T-level routes, there are only 3 T-level routes in the first round this year. If you're an employer who can help with that industry placement, we would love to hear from you. It's going to be challenging at the moment under COVID. We're probably going to push the work placement back to the end of the first year in the hope that by that stage there may be a bit of relaxation. We might be over the pandemic, you never know. And these are the routes that you can do. So you're in the digital route, you can do digital production, design and development. In construction, it's design, surveying and planning. And in education and childcare, there are education and childcare apprenticeships. And then you can do all these also at a level 2 qualification as a progression route into the level 3 the following year. And although this is the first lot of T-levels that have been introduced, there will be more to come, and eventually by about 2026, there will be T-levels in all professional and technical qualifications. That's what the government is aiming for. So I'm now going to hand over to Julie, who's going to talk about higher education.
Thanks, Sheila, for making sure we get our social distancing. Absolutely right. Just going to touch briefly on higher education. For those of us who work in and around Crawley and Gatwick will know that higher education has been an area where there's always a lot of discussion around the potential to grow and have a higher offer. Actually, what a lot of people don't know is at Chichester College Group, we are already delivering quite a significant range of higher education. And it's absolutely our aspiration working with businesses to grow that offer. We have a really good reputation in terms of our delivery in higher education. One of the areas that's most important to us is ensuring that the person that goes through that course can access employment. And up until last year, we were around 96% of our graduates moved into employment. We've also got a really experienced team of lecturers, and the majority of our courses have been developed directly with industry to meet specific needs in the local area. And I think the desire to grow higher education, particularly in the Crawley and what I call the sort of inner Gatwick Diamond area, is driven by the fact that we have 3 fantastic universities down on the coast, Brighton, Sussex and Chichester universities, but there's then a significant gap really until you get to Croydon and London. And that's something that we regularly hear feedback from businesses, that they're very keen that is addressed. And to that end, we are looking at a partnership to potentially bid for an Institute of Technology for the Crawley and wider Gatwick Diamond area to directly meet those needs that employers are talking about, both progressing students into higher education, but just as importantly, existing members of staff where actually there's an opportunity to develop and progress them, doing that through the formal route of higher education. Again, quite a lot of information on this slide, so we will circulate it round afterwards. But these are some of the higher education courses that we offer across the group, which includes HNCs, particularly in engineering, construction and the built environment, our higher national diplomas, again covering a wide range of subject areas, from hospitality, travel and tourism, a number in engineering, and computing, design and security. And then foundation degrees as well. I think the beauty of a foundation degree is that it also is linked to work-based learning. So again, very driven by being very practical in terms of leading into work. And there, business and management, early years, innovative and future technologies, learning support and sustainable food production. We also offer a number of top-up degrees, which is the opportunity where there's a final year to turn your HND or foundation degree into a full honours degree. And again, we work very, very closely with a number of universities to enable those progression routes for people that want to do that. I'm just going to briefly touch on some professional qualifications. Some of you in the past will have worked closely with us at the Horsham Training Centre. Unfortunately, we had to close that offer a couple of years ago, but all of the courses we were offering out of Horsham, we're now absolutely offering out of Crawley and Chichester. And these are your professional qualifications in areas like AAT, so accounting, CIM, Chartered Institute of Marketing, SIPS, which is around procurement, ILM, leadership and management, APS, professional sales, and CIPD, professional development. Some of those courses can also be linked into an apprenticeship, but they can also be done in their own right. And we've worked with many, many companies in the Gatwick Diamond over the years, where we've trained and progressed existing staff through the progression route of these really important qualifications. There are also a number of short courses that we will offer. We work very closely with the Manor Royal Bid and also other businesses within the Gatwick Diamond in terms of what we call licenses to practice. So where there is a particular requirement to have a qualification or a certificate, which can cover everything from first aid, food hygiene, safe handling of pesticides or chainsaw maintenance, through to mental health first aid, and qualifications around the construction industry, where you require what we would call a ticket to be able to be on site. And those range of courses are constantly changing based on demands and requirements from our businesses. And I think that's probably, for me, one of the overriding principles that we have to our delivery. It is based on regular conversations between employers and ourselves in terms of what is needed and how we can make sure that our provision is meeting employers' needs. The last area I'm going to talk about today, because Sheila and I are keen to open this up to be a sort of more interactive discussion, is the new scheme that was announced by government very recently, which is the Kickstart scheme. And we've been having a huge amount of interest on this scheme, so I just thought I'd take the opportunity to tell you a bit about it. So the scheme will provide funding to employers to create 6-month job placements for young people who are currently on universal credit and at risk of long-term unemployment. And I think that is going to be an area that is going to be absolutely in focus in the Gatwick Diamond area, and where this scheme gives us the opportunity to address some of those huge challenges which we've all read about in terms of the disproportionate impact on Gatwick and the surrounding areas. So the scheme itself is going to be starting in November, with the November 2020 this year, and will run through just over a year, with the final placements starting in December 2021. The application, to make an application, an organisation needs to take on 30 candidates. Now, I know that's been something that has been seen initially by a number of businesses as a huge barrier, as really only large corporates are in that position. So what there is for companies that could perhaps only take on 1 or 2 or a few more is there's a process where an intermediary is set up who will manage that process for the business to enable them to take on much smaller numbers. And I'm really pleased that Chichester College Group has put itself forward to be an intermediary. We won't be the only intermediary, but our view is this is not something where we're competing with others to be an intermediary. This is where we'll be coming together with organisations like Sussex Chamber of Commerce, who are also looking to be an intermediary, to see how we can use our combined resources and expertise to make sure the highest number of people affected can take advantage of this scheme, and how we can also make it as easy as possible for the businesses that are looking to offer these placements. So there is funding for each job placement. The funding covers 100% of the relevant national minimum wage for 25 hours a week and the associated employer national insurance contributions. So as I said, the funding means that it should be cost neutral to the employer. There's also extra funding at the start of the employment, a payment of £1,500 to support young people to build their experience and help them move into sustained employment after they've completed their placement. And what that really means is, what we don't want this to do is just be a fantastic opportunity for 6 months for both the employer and the business, but at the end of it, it just comes to an end. It's about the long-term sustainability of the scheme. It's looking to make sure that the young person can access training that will make them more employable in the future, and that it absolutely is able to link into the core objectives of that business. This flowchart sets out the process. I'm not going to talk through all of it, but again, we can take questions and share this. And I think one of our commitments, being an intermediary as Chichester College Group, is to make that process as easy as possible for business. We're looking at, on that process, how we can take some of the challenges away from businesses, how we can simplify things while still doing it to be absolutely compliant with the process, but how we can, as I said, make that as quick and as easy as possible. So I'm going to stop there so we can move on to questions, but I guess just to finish, our main driver in all that we're doing is to change people's lives through learning across all of our colleges, but we can't do that on our own. The only way we can ensure the absolute sustainability of that vision is by working with all of you, by working with businesses, to make sure, whether it's the young people we're training, whether it's people of all ages that we're going to be retraining and reskilling, we're absolutely doing it always in mind with enabling them to either progress into further education and training or into a job. And that's why our links with Gatwick Diamond Business and a whole host of other partners is so important, to make sure that actually we're delivering what you need. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Julian, and thanks, Sheila, as well. That was excellent, because I think, as well as taking us through the sort of services you provide, actually you started to address some of the big issues as well that we face. Personally, I'm particularly pleased to hear more about the Institute of Technology, and as you know, Julie, I'm sure as you both know, alongside that, also supported by the LEP, the Plans for an Innovation Centre in the Manor Royal. I think if those two initiatives go ahead, they will help to fill what has been a massive gap, actually, in Gatwick Diamond provision. So, with that from me, I'd like to open it up for discussion. I don't want people to complain that I gave Jeff Downs priority treatment by allowing him to introduce himself. So as you ask a question, if you could just say who you are and where you're from, and if you like, what your particular interest is in this agenda, but I'll leave that up to you. to kick things off, I'm going to pick on a question that's been asked by Anya, but I'm going to leave it to Anya to ask the question rather than me read it out. So over to you, Anya.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Julie. You know me well. My name's Anya Ledwith from Eshcon Environmental Management Consultancy. I actually put a question in the chat probably about halfway through your presentation. So I was thinking as much about with the redundancies related to COVID-19, especially in this area. What subject matters do you think are going to be very much needed for helping to reskill our workforce?
Well, if I start off and Julie may want to come in, I mean, the challenge always is what does the person want to do as opposed to where do we have skills needs. So if they all wanted to be engineers, we'd be absolutely thrilled because there's still a lack of trained engineers to go into work, and actually even teach engineering we struggle with. But obviously they don't all want to be engineers, and lots of people haven't necessarily got the qualifications or basic qualifications that allow them to do that. So for us, it's trying to find a course that would really engage them, where we know there's an opportunity to progress into work in the longer term. And that's the catch-22 situation, because as the economy reforms itself, it's where are those job vacancies going to be. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, can you hear me all right from here? I'm trying to maintain 2 meters from Sheila.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, one of the things that I think we do really well as a college group is we may train people in one sector, but it's about making sure that the skills they get in that are transferable, which can be around employability skills, customer service. So even if we are training people in a sector where the jobs aren't there, because that's their passion and interest, they don't want to give up that opportunity to learn it. It's about making sure that we are enabling them to use those skills in a different route. We know that at the moment, one of the sectors where there are a number of vacancies still is health and social care. Health and social care has a number of challenges around. It's not necessarily the career path that you have huge numbers of young people saying they want to work in. However, actually, as a career path, huge progression opportunities and a really important sector. So I think we've also, all of us, got a job to do in terms of making people understand sectors that may not be the most glamorous sectors on the surface, what the opportunities, if they want to be ensuring that they will be able to access a job is, and actually how they can access it. I know that Richard Hopkins, who's the chair of West Sussex Growers Association, would also say there are huge numbers of jobs in the horticulture sector. People might initially think, well, that's just about, you know, harvesting and picking crops. It is a part of it, but actually engineering and technology is becoming all the more important within that sector. So it's again those transferable skills into different sectors and how we encourage and inspire people to look at those. The other area that I believe there will be government funding around, and I think there'll be a push for Crawley in particular, is to look at new companies and initiatives around green technology and decarbonisation. And so, you know, Anya, I know that's an area you're hugely knowledgeable on and passionate about. And that's an area I'm really keen to look at. Can we develop, working with our universities, can we develop our offer in those areas? Because I believe that's a sector that is only going to become more and more important.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I do think that's massively important. You know, we could end up with a position where we have broadly the right number of jobs, broadly the right number of people, but a huge mismatch between the two. And I think that is going to be a massive challenge. I think Kickstart sounds absolutely brilliant to me, and we're really going to support it. Candida has mentioned that, as well as Sussex, that Surrey Chamber are also going to be intermediaries on that, and we'll look to support both chambers and, of course, the college as well, because as you both said, we're all in this together. Right. Where can I go next for a question? Lisa Mobbs has made a comment. Whether it's a question, let me have a look. Lisa, do you want to at least expand on your comment then, even if it's not a question? Lisa Mobbs.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. Yeah, it wasn't a
That'll
question.
teach you to make a comment.
I know. It wasn't a question, more of a statement. So, as I'm sure many people know, we are developing a new careers hub in Coaster Capital, and we are hoping that with the development of that careers hub and the cornerstone employers behind us, we will be able to ensure that young people are much more aware of the jobs that actually exist now in the area and the jobs that are growing within the area as well, so that we can inspire them and point them in the right direction towards those jobs and the qualifications that support those jobs. That help?
Thank you, Lisa. And as you know, we're very pleased to be supporting all that as well. So
Thank you.
Good things going on, and they all need to be supported, and we all need to help to bring things together. Right, so I don't put anyone else on the spot. Can I invite a voluntary question? We've got one from Sam.
I think Julia asked a question.
Oh, do
you, Dickinson?
Julia? Let's go to Julia next then.
Yes, I just wondered, since all the focus in the Gatwick Diamond area had been around Crawley itself, maybe some focus could be in the Leatherhead area. We've got large corporates over this side. You've got very high skilled jobs. CGI covers just about anything to do with IT, but certainly our space business is based here and has been for 40 odd years. I'm just not hearing that the same level of support is going to be in this part, where we also have high skilled needs and the sort of jobs that in theory the employees around Gatwick that have lost their jobs would want to transfer to.
Yeah, I think the reason I didn't talk as much about that is obviously we've got, two in the Coast Capital area, two fantastic colleges in Surrey, in terms of East Surrey College and Nescott, and we work hugely closely with Nescott and East Surrey. And again, this is a time, if there ever was one, to be working together and sharing links and sharing opportunities. And if there are opportunities, it's about making sure we share them around, not just for young people, but people of all ages, as we know, that displacement of jobs and people needing to look at new opportunities. And obviously, Coast Capital itself absolutely is very proud of all the work it does in Surrey, and works very closely with Enterprise M3 as well, because businesses and young people aren't driven by artificial borders that can be counted lines or let lines. Actually, what they want is to be able to access those jobs. So absolutely, we'll be working as well with the large corporates that haven't been impacted as much as others and who are looking at opportunities to grow. And I know there was a question Jeff asked at the Coast Capital AGM on Thursday of last week. The Institute of Technology bid that we hope to put in is predicated on being a bid between higher further education and businesses. And that will be some of our most significant businesses in the region that we'll be looking to partner with on that.
I think that's the case, really, because obviously the level of work that we do, we work with most universities, so for different areas of our business. In case people don't know, CGI, it's a very large global IT company. We work across just about any sector to do with IT, from balancing the national grid to space, as I've mentioned, just as I say, anything really to do with IT. A lot of my outreach, Lisa knows from way back when she was covering our area, so I won't go into that. But my interest has always been STEM outreach. I've been doing it since I was a graduate. So that's where my perspective is.
Julia,
our apprentices go miles.
Julia, we'd love to, outside of this, connect in with you and see how we can work. We're due to open a new STEM centre on the Crawley campus early next year. And whilst it's geographically based in Crawley, it's very much a STEM centre for the region, and that's really important.
Okay, and maybe Candida wants to say something.
Well, Julia and I have been speaking about this for some time, and we'd love to join that conversation with you, Julie. And I see Lisa has also put a message up. So it'd be great to have a further conversation offline.
That'd be great. I'd really value that. Thank you.
Yeah. And the details on the Institute of Technology are not tied down yet. We're waiting for government to come back, and they suspended any discussion about it whilst we were in lockdown, and they haven't come back and reopened it again yet.
Well, I mean, it could also cover the sort of thing that I was involved in last week. We were doing a sprint with Newcastle City Council, Northumbrian Water, and some energy companies up there on net zero. So all of those sort of innovations, I absolutely think, you know, the sort of good practice that is going on already in STEM outreach, I just think we should be sharing it more, and finding easier ways for young people to work in our industry, because the IT industry has been very much less affected than other sectors.
Yeah, we'll definitely pick up with you offline, Julia.
I was going to ask ask Andy to give a university perspective, but then he answered a phone call, so perhaps I should give him a break. Is there another?
Jeff, I'm here.
Oh, you are back. You were on the phone a second ago. You know, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's just typical, isn't it? I know. I have to confess, my the speaker's not brilliant, so I'm getting a bit of interference. But I mean, really, just what Julian was saying, I think there are lots of opportunities to engage in STEM. I think it's even more important now, and not just for 18-year-olds, but for people that are potentially kind of losing their jobs or finding it hard to get, you know, jobs and apprenticeships now. And I think I would love to see much more of a kind of concerted kind of coast to capital, Gatwick Diamond kind of area approach to this, because I see this as a vertical issue. It's right from levels, you know, 1 and 2 right the way up to level 6 and 7, and there are opportunities to do stuff. And I would really like to meet Julia at some point as well and find out a bit more about her company. As Sheila was saying, you know, we already, the university engages with Nescott and East Surrey. We have close partnerships there, and we are looking to do more in the Leatherhead area. And I know my colleague Andrew Adams, who's a business development manager at the university, the same as myself, has visited a number of companies around the Leatherhead walking area. So yeah, please, let's make some of these things happen.
Okay.
Well, just going into the space side, don't forget you've also got in the Surrey Hills, you've got Mollard Space, which is effectively UCL's planetary science faculty. And when I did my space foundation, I did it up in London, but it was quite funny because obviously we had lots of people from here that do that foundation, and the lecturers go up to London, and they could have come just to Leatherhead. Why would they need to go up to London? Because, you know, we could work together here.
Okay. Thank you,
what maybe at some point, you know, when things are a bit easier. Sorry, Jeff. Maybe set up some kind of event like this based around this with you know, Chichester College Group, the university involved, Gatwick Diamond, and, you know, other related organisations. It might be 21 till we do it face to face, but it'd be great to plan something like that in around the Leatherhead Dorking area.
Yeah. Well, we would love to be involved in something like that. I think we're seeing the power of networking now. I think there's at least 3 or 4 meetings coming out of this session, and I think there is something around what you've just discussed that we can come together on. We can consider whether it's best to hang back until we can do things face to face. Well, I have a horrible feeling at the moment that if we hold out too long for that we may be holding on forever. So we have to move things forward. Right. That, I didn't mean that to be a sort of a down note to finish on, but it sounded a bit like it. Can I invite some further comments or questions or perspectives? Jeff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of apprenticeships, as a gateway to further education, because it's what I actually did. So I'm a huge fan of it. But I was just wondering whether there should be more emphasis in the current sort of economic environment and the coming economic environment on encouraging people to stay in education for longer, rather than putting all emphasis on on the job training kind of thing, and whether in the current environment will there be more opportunities actually just to step back for a couple of further years, not necessarily university of course, but with all the other wonderful channels and opportunities there are, T-levels, etc., and just encourage people to do that rather than being in a hurry to get to work and earn pennies. Maybe stay at home with the parents a little bit longer and enhance and enrich their education a little bit more.
Jeff, I think that we would encourage anybody to continue to progress within their education, because all the research says that the higher the level of qualification that you achieve, depending on the industry you're working in, then the chances of your earning powers in later life going up are quite high. But I say that broadly, so that absolutely doesn't mean that everybody goes to university, but there are plenty of opportunities to do an HNC or an HND, or actually in Crawley, the local population are less well qualified at level 3, because there used to be quite a lot of lower skilled jobs that people could go into at the university. So we were struggling to get young people to stay on and get an A-level or B-Tech, applied general, level 3, or professional technical qualification at level 3. I think there's more opportunity now to persuade people, and certainly at Crawley we have got more students than we have sufficient teachers to deliver to in some subjects. It is that we've seen a lot more people coming to college, so I think there is evidence that that is happening. It's just how easy it will be to persuade them to continue to stay on in that qualification area. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the moment. Take the opportunity and persuade people to continue with their education.
Good, thank you.
Okay, who'd like to go next? I have another one. Oh, it's Sally. Sally, who I relegated earlier because she did have a hand up a little while ago.
Thanks, Jeff. It's just, I've noticed, rightly so, there's a lot of funding and education for younger people, a lot of focus on younger people. But as this area is being so hard hit, people being displaced from their jobs, I'm wondering if you envisage any additional help for people in the older age brackets or above 24, and whether the college would be set up to support something like that.
Certainly, Sally, if you are on job seekers allowance or getting a benefit, then you can come back and study at college without having to pay a fee. So there's that opportunity. And then we talked a bit earlier about the opportunities for apprenticeships that you can go in. Government is not, I mean, we as friendly towards adults as it is towards younger people. Their focus has been on younger people so far. We're doing a lot of lobbying, and I personally was lobbying Gillian Keegan, the skills minister, on Friday, at offering all retraining up to the age of level 3 for free, because I think that's the only way that we will eventually get people with the right skills to go into the jobs that are available. But there's a limit on the public purse, so they're not quite as keen. Have you got anything else?
I think, well, I'd absolutely agree with what Sheila said. I think the most important thing is if somebody, an adult or somebody over the age of 24, finds themselves in that position, it's to come and talk to us, whether it's Chichester College Group, the university, one of the other colleges, because actually it's about looking at their individual needs and their individual circumstances and seeing what the right solution is. It could be a very short course, that actually is what would help them become more employable on the jobs market. It could be a longer opportunity, and it could be accessing, I believe they're still called adult learner loans, which, I know a lot of people, particularly at the moment, are very nervous about taking on a loan, in view of taking on debt. But actually, it is not a bad debt. It is a debt that how do we describe it?
Well, it's a debt that you repay in the same way as you do any student loan over a period of time, and only when you're earning a salary of a particular level.
So again, I think it's about encouraging people that there are those routes. They may have to make sacrifices and changes to what their plans were, but actually come in and talk, or we're doing a lot of things on Zoom, so that we can look at the art of possible.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions?
I saw Lisa's question as to whether there's support for this year's graduates, and actually I don't know the answer to that. Andy Slade might know whether the universities have been given any money to support those who have graduated who can't find a job specifically.
I'm not sure I can give you a 100% accurate answer on that, but as far as I know, there has been no extra funding specifically to help graduates find a job other than the normal government schemes. Obviously, like yourselves and like other institutions, we're keen to, as was mentioned a few minutes ago, we are keen to keep learners learning. And we do have a record number this year of students actually staying on to do master's courses, because the job market isn't perhaps as great as it has been in the past. But no, I'm afraid, as far as I know, and this might not be correct, there is no additional funding, Sheila.
No, Lisa's made the comment in the chat that there are, depending on their age, there is still some support that they can get. I suppose once they get over the level tends to be over 25. So once you get over the age of 25, then the funding is much more difficult.
I think a company came to us a while ago and said, would as graduates be eligible for the Kickstart? And I think, as you've said, if they're under 25 and they're unemployed, they are, but that's about it really, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that their courses were cut short with virtually no notice. The last sort of 6 months of their final year was really badly disrupted. They didn't get any of the the careers fairs that they would normally have got, and I think this particular cohort is quite severely challenged to get roles. So I think the LEC could be very proactive on this front, and I just think there are things that we can do under corporate responsibility that might help.
Hi Julie, it's Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this falls slightly outside of my remit as Careers Hub lead, but let me ask the question. Can you leave that one with me, and I'll go back to the skills team, Mr. Capital, ask the question, and I'll get back to you.
So the LEC has a skills board, Gap 360 skills board, which is chaired by Francis Rutter, the principal and CEO of Nescot. And that is about working with the universities, the colleges, private training providers, anyone working in that space to look collectively at the challenges. So I think probably the best route is through that group in terms of how they're working. But I think for me, it goes back to the earlier point. It's about all of us. If someone comes up with a good idea or something that's working brilliantly, it's about sharing it. And I know that the universities have in this region have been doing a huge amount between Chichester, Sussex and Brighton to share thinking and to share support for the right outcomes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're running out of time, but that leads me quite well into what was going to be a final question, which I think I'm probably putting to Julie, though Sheila will be well able to answer as well. And it's not really a question, but it's to invite you from, as you've just been doing, the broader skills people challenges in terms of the LEP and the recovery plan And what are the strategic priorities, just to sort of round off at that level, if one or both of you could?
So I think a lot of those issues we've covered on this call today. I think you can split it into the sort of short and then more medium and long terms. In the short term, it is about looking at in particular, the sectors and industries that have been the hardest hit. And in our area, obviously the airport and the associated supply chain, but other sectors as well. And about working with those employers, looking at where they are making or have made large-scale redundancies as the furlough scheme ends in just over a month's time. How can we support those people through access to training, retraining, working with DWP in the job centres? How can we support people where there are opportunities into those jobs that are still there? And what support do they need to make that as quick and as seamless as possible? Then I think in terms of the more medium and longer term, I think it is about recognising that the world will not go back to how it was before. I think it's about looking at the way we work, that sort of more cultural side of it, and looking at how the landscape in the area will change. We know that a lot of professional services companies who traditionally have had their head offices in London are saying they're not going to be going back till some January. Some are now saying July. Some will not go back at all in the same way. And that does present some opportunities for places like Crawley, and apologies for focusing on Crawley in particular, but Crawley and the surrounding areas, where actually we've already got a really strong professional services sector with the likes of a number of the banks, Mitchell, law firms, accountants, PwC, Grant Thornton, all with significant bases there. And I think they are looking at different ways of working and different ways of people not having to commute in the same way. So I think it's about keeping that conversation going around where jobs are going to be created and how we can then make sure, through working with schools, through the Careers and Enterprise Company, with colleges and universities, we're training people in those skills and with those transferable skills to actually go into those jobs. I guess it goes back to the first question from Anya. I do believe that green technologies, in its broadest sense as a sector, is an area where Crawley could play a really leading role.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Unless anyone has any burning questions or final comments, I'm going to wind things up there. I'm looking around. No. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. We've been really privileged today, because as well as the day jobs, of course, as we've recognised, Julie has another rather important job as chair of Close to Capital LEP. And I should have mentioned that we're very pleased to have Sheila as one of our Gatwick Diamond business champions, so taking a very strong interest in the sort of wider Gatwick Diamond business sector. So that's been really good. So I think you'll want to join me in a round of virtual or real applause. This is where we look like seals, waiting for our fish to be thrown at us, is what I always think. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.